our May 13th Board of Education meeting to order. Roll call vote, please, Jenny.
Mrs. Conlon-Wasik?
Here.
Mrs. Knutson-Strack?
Here.
Mr. Nergy?
Here.
Mr. Reynoso? Mr. Reynoso? Mr. Sloan?
Here.
Mr. Thorson?
Here.
Ms. Westphal? Ms. Westphal? Okay.
Okay, motion carries. We'll now that we have a quorum, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. And Amy, would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance this evening?
Sure.
Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Amy. Item 4, approval of agenda. Board action is requested. I move the Board of Education approve the May 13th, 2021 board meeting agenda as presented. I need a second.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Is there any thoughts about the agenda? Any dates that need to be changed?
The only thing I have is I can't vote to approve the meeting minutes for the one that I wasn't here for.
Yes, you can abstain from
I will
that.
abstain.
Yes, thank you so much, Dean. Anything else? Okay, roll call vote, please, Jenny.
Okay, here we go. Mrs. Knutson-Strack?
Yes.
Mr. Nergy?
Yes.
Mr. Sloan?
Yes.
Mr. Thorson?
Yes.
Ms. Conlon-Wasik?
Yes. Motion carries. The consent agenda. Board action is requested. I move the Board of Education approve the consent agenda as follows. Board of Education meeting minutes, payment of bills, treasurer's report, and personnel, and board policy adoption as presented. I need a second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Douglas. Is there any discussion or?
The only discussion that is on F&F in the coming months, we're going to be going over the procedures for the payment of bills.
Okay.
I think Abe's going to give a refresher on what the procedure is now, and then in a couple of months, what they're doing to make it a little bit more transparent. So I just want to let everybody know that.
Okay, so Abe will not be giving us a presentation this evening?
No, he will not. No. It's just
Okay.
for later on.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Douglas. Roll call vote, please, Jenny.
Mr. Nergy?
Yes.
Mr. Sloan?
Yes.
Mr. Thorson?
Abstain.
Mrs. Conlon-Wasik?
Yes.
Mrs. Knutson-Strack?
Yes.
Kathleen, if I may,
Yes.
we are thrilled this evening to have two of our recommendations to hire teachers this evening. So I'm going to tip it over to Mr. Dan Landry, and I believe Dominic Giocaris is also here to welcome our two new staff to our family here in D127. Dan?
Was the one time that the dogs are yelling at each other is when I get to speak. It happens, I guess. So in the Streamwood logo right there, you can see it. He's just popping on. Here's Zach Keller with, looks like his family. Welcome aboard, Zach. Zach is our new band director, and we are thrilled to have him. He comes with about a decade's worth of experience. He marched in college and has been the director of bands at a couple of schools, and I will just say that this is one of all hires are important, but band is one of the very lifebloods of our schools, and we're very thrilled to have Zach aboard.
Absolutely. That's wonderful. Thank you. Great recommendation.
Zach.
Welcome. This might be a good night that I happen to be wearing my marching band shirt.
Hey.
I'm not kidding. I had it dropped off.
You're psychic, Amy.
Who knew? That's fantastic. Well, welcome.
Yes, welcome. We're so glad to have you. Band is such, it's really, like Dan said, it's a lifeblood. And my daughter loved it. I know Amy's did. I'm sure some of the other parents. It's just wonderful experience. So we're so glad to have you. Do we have anyone else?
We
to
do.
celebrate
We have
this evening?
another hire as well that you guys just did, and you can see Ms. Kelly Martinez is on the screen waving to us. Dominique Giocaris led the hiring process for her, so I'm going to actually let her speak because I think she's even more excited than I am, and I'm through the moon. So.
I am tremendously excited that we're able to welcome Kelly to the Ramley and to the Grays Lake Central World Language Department. She comes as a very qualified candidate, and I'm very eager to see what she's going to be able to do when working with our students. So congratulations, Kelly.
Welcome.
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 Gracias.
Okay. Any more celebrating?
If I could just sneak one in for a minute, it looks like August Hawk is on, and August is actually one of the 4 summer interns that were hired for the tech department. So he was with us last year. He jumped in that last minute where we were able to get students in for a little bit and got half of the experience with the construction that was occurring at Central and everything else. And August went through the entire interview process, including doing some amazing RIBS interviews. So we're super excited to have him again. And I know the team at Central can't wait to have him for the full time for this summer. So congrats, August, and it's good to see you.
Thank you.
And I was wondering if it's okay. It looked like Zach had his hands full a little bit. I don't know if he could get to the mute. If he wanted to say anything, he was like, Zach, you got a quartet there.
I wasn't sure if I had privileges to speak, but I just wanted to thank Dan. That was quite the introduction. I'm extremely humbled by that and really excited to get started and join the Ramley. That's my new favorite saying. So glad to be a part of this. And this is my family. This is my son, Judah, and my daughter, Lena, and that was my wife, Julia. So thank you, everyone. Appreciate that.
Great. Welcome.
Lovely. Well, I enjoy anyone else to celebrate? We have more celebrations? No? All righty. Well, motion carried. We will move on to item 6, board reports. Does anyone have anything that they would like to say, board members, or good news, not so good news? Anything in between? Okay, silence. All right. Okay, we'll move along to our superintendent's report. Mikkel.
Okay, thank you very much. The year, it seems strange to say, is winding down. We've got a few things to let you know about, and I want to make sure I give Dan and Jim some time to share their plans about some of the end of year activities, particularly graduation, things like that. Before we get to that, I did want to mention, again, the 2 vaccine clinics we have running on May 18th and 19th at Central and North, respectively. As we were talking a little bit before the meeting, not exactly sure how many people we have signed up yet. As of Monday, we had about 50 per campus, roughly. But again, that was when it was only open for 16-year-olds. I'm getting a lot more questions, a lot more traffic, a lot more interest once they opened it for the emergency use authorization was open for 12 and above. So I anticipate, and our partner schools are sending out to their communities as well. So I have a feeling it's going to be a bigger group than 50, let's just say. But we should get some more info next week. I don't have control of the rosters or the signups on. We have a good relationship with Julasco, and they said they will let us know, because they're bringing in the vaccinators, so they need to know. They're keeping an eye on the numbers, making sure they have enough, and so make sure we have enough staff as well. So I really appreciate it. We had some volunteers from the board. If you would like to come in, please contact me. The more the merrier. So definitely looking forward to that. I don't know if I mentioned D46 is also bringing over some administrators as well, just to help out. So it should be a good party on the 18th and 19th. Grays Lake Fire Department will have EMTs on site, just for your information, so should be all smooth and good. And again, really important that we're doing this for a number of reasons, but as we're being told by the Lake County, the biggest group right now in terms of cases is the 20-somethings. But the teens, the 0 to 20 group, is just about caught up in terms of COVID cases. So as of Wednesday, they're only about 300 cases behind. So point being, that's where the infection is spreading. So we're hopeful that families feel comfortable with that vaccine to try to keep that down. So scroll down a bit. Also, I'd like to mention we have a few state champions I'd like to celebrate. Grays Lake Central Junior Haley Brinus. It was the 2021 IHSA Journalism Headline Writing State Champion. So she does a number of things with the Rampage, and she had placed at state in headline writing and copy editing. So she was a double state qualifier, but she is the state championship for journalism headline writing. Very cool. We also have 2 state champions in Skills USA. In Skills USA, you may or may not know, my son, when he was at Tech Campus, went down to Skills USA. So it's all CTE competitions. They have competitions, state competitions in just about everything. So culinary and video game design and woodworking and construction and a ton of things. But from North, we have Michael Hubka, who is the Interactive Application and Video Game Creation State Champion in Skills USA, and he will be moving on to Nationals. So we wish him well there. That's pretty amazing. At Central, Bella Crothers is the EMT State Champion at Skills USA, so that's really exciting as well. She'll be moving on to Nationals as well. Very happy about that. I did want to mention, I know we do have Keegan is here. He'll do his report, but this is a last meeting that we have with our current student reps. So we're happy for them because they're moving on to some really great things. I'm going to embarrass Keegan a little bit here and ask him to explain what he's doing next year, if he's, heard from any universities or anything like that. I'm not sure. But really definitely want to thank them for their service and letting the board and letting the administration know kind of what's going on from the student perspective. It's been a lot of fun to get to know them. So Keegan, have you applied anywhere? I don't know. Anything happening for you next year? What's happening?
Yeah, I'm actually going to be going to University of Notre Dame. Yeah, so I'm excited.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Very cool. Congratulations. In what kind of field or what major are you looking at?
I actually got into the Mendoza College of Business, so I'm going to be doing business there.
All right. Doing some business. Excellent. Well, congratulations. We'll wait for your report in just a few minutes, but we just wanted to congratulate you and thank you for everything you've done for us this whole year. And, there may be a token of appreciation coming your way soon. So keep an eye out for that. So thanks, Keegan.
Thank you.
Absolutely. That's, as far as me talking, that's about enough. But if I could kick it to Dan and Jim to just talk a little about what's going on with, as you may recall, graduation's been a little interesting the last couple of years, and they've been spending a lot of time planning that. So I'd like to give them some time to share what's coming up. So, Dan, why don't you go?
Sure. Okay, so graduation is scheduled, and both schools are scheduled for the 3rd, rain date of the 4th. We at Central are hosting it out on the athletic field. The students and staff are excited about it. We will actually have admin on stage, as well as we do have places on stage for 2, and if I can squeeze it, 3 board members. If you're available, if you could let me know at any time, you can use Mickle as a conduit. You can go directly to me, whatever you want. And then my hope is that you'd be there to hand the students their diploma covers, as has been the historical practice, as it were, to try to get back normalcy for the class of 2021. So that would be Central in a nutshell.
Are we doing handshaking, Dan, or is it strictly just handing off the folder? Probably?
So I'm probably going to do air knuckles with the kids, as been my practice. Usually I shake their hands, but I can't imagine that Dr. Landry would appreciate that very much. Sorry, Jake. But I'm not on the stage during the time when the kids get their diploma cover. I'm out on the side congratulating them. So I would say probably we're not going to do it. We'll just do a handoff of the diploma cover, get the quick picture, and then send them on their way down back towards me and then to the seats.
So despite the CDC's ruling today, we are still doing a masked, socially distanced graduation on the field.
Yes.
Yes. Great. Thank you. Jim, can you?
Yeah, 'tis the season. It's awards season. We have actually our academic awards night coming up on Tuesday in the field house. Looking forward to that. NHS had their induction there, and it turned out to be actually a really great setting for a ceremony. So we're going to continue that with our academic awards night. Athletic awards night coming up on May 26th. We have prom on May 22nd, which will be held on campus. A variety of events, including some games, a red carpet to walk up, to take your formal picture. We've got some outside tents that you see at weddings that will have a DJ and a lounge so that kids can sit and listen to music. So a nice variety for our seniors to come and have a little fun. All culminating in graduation on June 3rd, as Dan said. We'll also be on the stadium field. We were going to live stream it on a big screen in the parking lot. We have foregone that due to the increase in attendance that we're allowed to have now within the stadium. We still will live stream it, but we're not going to do it on the big screen in the parking lot. One of the things that we are excited about to include again this year that we started last year was given the opportunity for parents to escort their graduate up to the stage. So we will, on the stadium field itself, will be the graduates along with 2 family members or guests whom they choose to walk up with. We had some great feedback last year, parents stating that it was the best ceremony they ever attended due to the fact that they got to be part of it. So excited to do that again this year. As Dan said, we will have 2 board members on stage for anyone that would like to help distribute the diploma covers. So if there's anybody that would like to attend the North ceremony, feel free to let me know.
Great, thank you.
I thought we were only talking about graduation. So sorry. So we're also doing our academic awards are next week, Tuesday, and the athletic awards are the following Tuesday, the 26th. We are doing prom rebranded. They titled it Go Live Your Dream, which is a kind of, I don't know if it's a song. I don't really get out that much anymore. But we are doing it at the school on the athletic field. Students have the option to purchase a dinner boxed in from our district. Dalton's Cake is going to be doing dessert boxes for the students who decide to do that part. And there'll be a senior highlight video shown that night, as well as the coronation, a balloon launch, rock decorating, and other events for the kids to do because we're still socially distant.
Great, thanks. Lots of great stuff. And again, it's been another exercise in flexibility because as they've been planning, regulations and guidance has changed so they can add more people or do different things. So barring any further changes, that seems to be what's going on. But yeah, very exciting, very exciting. I believe, well, we did have a FOIA request. Well, let me back up. As far as the COVID-19 update, I don't have much to update you. I think the vaccine clinics, that was sort of the big update. Again, the CDC's guidance today, as far as, it was a pretty blunt statement. Anybody who's fully vaccinated, indoor, outdoor, no mask, social distance, big group, small group, done. Wow, okay. But just so you all know, we don't anticipate our practices changing for this year. We've got 2 weeks left. We're going to continue with what we're doing. And again, that guidance was not necessarily for schools. It wasn't, regulation. It wasn't a mandate. All state guidance is still in place. The CDC doesn't supersede that. So it's great. I think it's a great sign. And we'll work to process kind of what that all means over the summer. So, and we had a FOIA request, which we fulfilled. Thank you very much. That is the end of my report.
Fantastic. That was a lot. Do any board members have any questions for Jim or Dan or for Mikkel? Any?
I do anticipate that families will be looking for some guidance soon. I mean, given this big news of masks today.
Yeah.
So I just anticipate that we'll be getting some questions just as soon as you run into people like, do I need to have a mask here? What are you saying? So just having that kind of information would be helpful. I think it's just excellent news. I mean, we've been feeling the lift coming, I think. So I think this is just excellent news. Anyway, it's good.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I plan to send out a real short blurb just basically saying, yes, this is all wonderful information, but our practices will continue here at Grace. So, yeah. Good point.
Anyone else before we move on? Okay, we're going to move on to our item 8, Student Board Representative Reports. I don't know who's going first, Keegan or Charlie. Have you decided? All right.
Charlie, are you here? I don't know if Charlie's here.
Charlie not here? Charlie is here? Okay, Keegan, would you like to start? Seeing I can see you?
Yeah.
Hi.
Yeah, I don't think. Okay, so as was said earlier, Haley Bryness and Bella Crothers both won the respective state tournaments. So that was very exciting. Baseball is now 17-4, and they are ranked 11th in the state. So that is also very exciting. Lacrosse is 3-0. Track won the Ram invite. Girls soccer is 1-0 in conference, and is actually playing North tonight. And then senior director won Axe for last weekend, sorry. We had the food trucks here a few weekends ago, and that was a really big success. A lot of people came out for those. And then our senior countdown is underway, so I know a lot of seniors are excited about that. And then, as was said earlier, prom is next Friday, and the award nights are coming up. So there's a lot to look forward to. And this Saturday, we are having Mr. GCHS at 5 and 8 p.m. And that's the end of my report.
Thank you so much, Keegan. I'm not sure if we should celebrate you now or wait for Charlie if he's here to finish his report. I'm not seeing him.
I don't think he's here, Kathleen. No.
Is he not here yet? Keegan, I want to thank you so much for being here through this time and giving us the really good news about what's going on in the school, keeping us connected to the students and hearing all the wonderful things that you do. So I want to thank you for everything you've done, the leadership you've shown, and I'm sure you're going to do fantastic wherever you go in life. I'm sure other board members would like to congratulate you and salute you too.
Thank you, Keegan, for exactly what Kathleen said, keeping us up to date with what students are doing, giving us that student voice, giving us just the different things that students have been doing, letting us know in the fall different things that you were up to, and golf. It just sounded so great at the time. So just really appreciate all of it. So congratulations for your year, and just blessings for everything you're going to do in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Quiet? All righty. Well, thank you so much. I guess we're going to miss Charlie. We'll catch up with him soon. Okay. May I move on, Mikkel? Are we good? Okay. So we would like to open our, item 9, we'd like it to open our board meeting to public participation. We would like participants to give us their names so that we can get back to you. And we also want you to know that by policy, each person can speak for 3 minutes. It is a policy, and it's a hard stop, and I apologize. Everyone that knows me knows I love to hear what people say, but this is a policy, and so I will unfortunately have to end any public participation after 3 minutes. So with that, Mikkel, do we have any members of the public who've joined us?
We may. We have a couple of people that aren't normally in our meeting anyway, but if anybody would like to speak, I think it's manageable enough. If somebody wants to start, we can figure it out from there.
Looks like Mr. Hogan.
Oh, Chris? Oh, Chris, go for it.
All right, I'm going to read fast. For those I haven't met or didn't make a good enough impression on, my name is Chris Hoge. I'm one of the co-presidents of the Grays Lake Education Association. I'm here tonight to say thank you to the Board of Education and the entire community for your support of this district throughout this incredibly challenging school year. Without a doubt, there's not another school district who treated its employees as well as this district treated its people. Other districts responded to a global health pandemic by laying off support staff, cutting stipends, mandating full-day in-person attendance, and ignoring science and health recommendations. District 127 supported every single employee and has continued to support them through every second of this pandemic. Please note this was noticed and deeply appreciated by the staff. Second reason I'm here is to thank our administration for leading us through the last 15 months of the unknown. So in no particular order, thank you, Mikkel, for doing your math degree proud and always finding the data and following the data. Thank you for your unrelenting respect for science and for deferring to health professionals rather than working off of a gut feeling or emotions. Thank you, and thank Jenny for being the lightning rod for criticism and for always leading this district in the right direction. Thank you, Tracy and Jennifer, for rewriting bell schedules, calendars, and basically rewriting education about 16 times in the last year and a half. Thank you to Danielle, Amy, and Nat for learning way too much about everyone's coughs, sneezes, fevers, and for monitoring the changing laws for quarantine, absences, and of course, childcare issues. Your respect for each employee and their individual circumstances concerns meant the world. Thank you, Abe, for celebrating your first year with us in a very impressive way. Thank you and Gina for your proactive efforts to ensuring that all necessary PPE were on hand to create a safe environment for our staff and students. Thank you to Dan Gonzalez and his entire crew for reorganizing our spaces multiple times and for ensuring that all of Abe's PPE was in place. Thank you for your dedication to keeping our buildings safe and our people healthy. Thank you, Jess, and congratulations for keeping up with Abe and impressing us in your first year. Without you, Elena, and your entire staff, remote learning would never have been possible. Thank you, Mark and Rosa, for finding creative ways to provide services for our most important students, even when we couldn't see them in person. Thank you to Jim, Dan, Meg, Mike, Jeff, Barb, and of course, Tracy, Mary, Lori, and Andrea for finding just the right way to lead your buildings. Thank you for your guidance and calmness throughout the unknown and for being a daily supportive presence. Thank you to Tina, Brian, Adam, Abby, Jenny, Jennifer for supporting our coaches and athletes and for somehow finding a way to pack a full year's worth of sports into a few months. It was awesome and totally worth it. Thank you to all the department chairs. The list is too long. For all you've done, the list is too long. The union has felt your support and heard the thanks and praise from you throughout this year. And we felt it was important to end this year by giving our heartfelt thanks back to our administration for an unbelievable year in so many ways. So thank you all.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
And I know we're not supposed to comment on public comments, but I want to thank Chris and Laura for their leadership as well. They've been wonderful to work with, and it's just, we can't do all this without us collaborating and cooperating together. So thank you.
I'm going to comment too. I don't think anyone could have said it any better. I think that sums up what this district is all about. So thank you, Chris.
Chris, that was very genuine and it was very heartfelt. So didn't leave anybody out, and we have a good partnership with you guys. So appreciate it.
Thank you.
From there, I don't know if anybody else needs to speak from the public. If so, please feel free to jump in. And I don't hear or see anyone raring to speak. So I think we're good, Kathleen.
Okay, so we are going to close public participation. Thank you so much, Chris. That meant the world to us, all of us. And we're going to move on. We do not have a need to go into closed session. Item 11, continuing business, committee of the whole discussion. We moved this into continuing business at our last meeting. And I think, Jay, this was something that you were interested in. A little bit of background here. We wanted to have a conversation about maybe going to committee of the whole. There was some bumps along the way with our Zoom room committee meetings. I think it was to be expected. But we wanted to know if board members, Jay, is this right? You can help me out here. What board members were thinking, if they wanted to go to committee of the whole, or if they wanted to stay in committee, or if there were some things they wanted to change about our committee, our existing format. I'll leave it at that. Jay?
Yeah, thank you, Kathleen. I'll just add quickly, the reason to bring this up is just to ensure that we're all kind of on the same page, just so that we're, part of the same conversation. No one's really left out in wondering, oh, what happened in P cubed or what happened in finance. So I really just wanted to open it up to the floor to see what other people thought, whether we want to keep things the same or if we want to, explore trying this out and seeing if it works for us. And if it doesn't, then of course we can look into going back. But I'll just pass it back to the floor.
Any other board members? Let me just go around and see where people are at. I see Amy. Do you have any comments on this? Are you happy with the way things are? Any changes that you'd like to make to the committee structure, or you want to try something new?
Yeah, I've given this a lot of thought just because I thought one of the directions that this may go with committee of the whole is because we've had conversations about COVID, right? And we've had to repeat it in two different committees. But I think that's going to wane now. So I think that's gonna wane. And so then I think about, well, then what may be repeated. And I do like them to be separate. Not everyone has to be in a finance meeting. Not everybody has to be in a policy personnel meeting, including staff. So they can, people who need to be in one can be in one, and people who need to be in the other can be in the other. And board members can attend either one. So that's been something I've thought about. Those are my initial thoughts. I mean, that's what I just keep going back to.
Yeah, no, thank you. Douglas, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, through the whole COVID, I love the flexibility to be able to, kind of read what's on the agenda ahead of time. And for the first couple months, because of the COVID, I think, I like the idea that I'd be able to pop in and out when something on the agenda interests me. I think that I want to have the trust of my fellow board members to make the decisions in their expertise. I also think that I think we're all of us are very taxed in our lives right now, and being pulled from all these different directions. So I think adding to more commitment, I think would be hard for me. I think we should keep it the way it is for now. That's what I would vote for, at least.
Right.
I humbly respect everybody's opinion.
Of course. Thank you so much, Douglas. Let me see. Erin, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, I think that especially for some of those things, if you went to finance and PQ, sometimes it got pretty at night. So I really appreciated for especially our administration who has to be up and at school the next day. you know, giving them that break of being able to do whichever one is important to them is important. And especially like, you know, Abe, and, you know, he's able to sign off and, you know, be home and do that. And so I think that's important. And also, you know, teachers and administration get to choose which one is more pertinent to them. So that's good too. The only time I think it's really kind of hard is, like that's been said, with COVID, doing the same report twice. On the flip of it, I think the hardest part is if we have to go to closed session on both committees for the same issue, which doesn't happen very often. I think it only happens.
No, it doesn't. Okay. Thank you, Erin. Hal, do you have any thoughts?
I can't think.
Oh, sorry, Erin. Did I cut you off?
Yeah, that's
I'm
okay.
so sorry.
Mike,
I didn't hear you. It was very quiet. Could you repeat what you said? Because I didn't hear it.
I think if there's some reason where we would need to go into closed session with both committees to discuss the same issue, I think is the one time where it really is important. Or if there's a lot of, but there really isn't outside of COVID. So I think it works right now the way we have it.
Okay. All righty. I'm going to move on to Hal. Hal, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are to keep it the way it is, because it seems like this board is very active and interested and generally tends to attend both meetings, whether they're a member of that committee or not. It's just as simple as that. So why we don't have to, we're basically a committee of the whole, but with only some of us being voting members of each committee. So.
Okay. And finally, Dean, I know you're new, but you can weigh in if you have some thoughts on this.
6 years previous board experience, where the board actually we always treated our board meetings more as a committee of the whole than an actual. I'm quite surprised that this board tends to do a lot more of the work outside and then just turns these meetings into more resolving the issues, which is good. But in some cases, there's a need for additional discussion, which I think should be done at these meetings, not by creating a separate meeting to just have those discussions. So if you had, it looks like from the one set of meetings that I went to for finance and so it's a fairly effective process as it exists. It runs very smoothly with Abe and Amy and Aaron and everyone who's on the committees doing it and being very, very invested in it. I don't think we need an extra meeting to do this, to be honest. I think it looks from just the outsider's perspective that the meetings are being run well. I think that if you would have a function of a committee of the whole would really be to add more discussion to this meeting if you need it for any additional items that need to be just like we're doing right now. I mean, this discussion would be, if you had a committee of the whole, you'd do the committee of the whole or this type of discussion in that and then bring it for resolution to the board, but why have another meeting?
Yeah, we tend to have monitoring, you know, this would be like monitoring our work. We have that out at the board meeting in front of everyone, supposedly, when we get back to normal. So, okay, well, I appreciate everyone's, Jay, can I dovetail back to you to see if you have any additional thoughts? Are you good?
No, I'm good. I appreciate everyone's input. Like I said, it's just a matter of bringing it up to kind of explore the idea.
Absolutely.
Consensus, it sounds like we're just going to keep things the same, which is totally fine.
Okay, wonderful. And Jay, thank you for bringing it up because I think there were a lot of questions and we really needed to resolve them. So I think you've really helped us think about that and get everyone's opinion. And so we'll move on. Okay, so thank you. Okay, all right, item 12, committee reports. This might be a little jumpy this week because we do have some new people in some new spots, and I spoke with Mikkel yesterday about getting people up to date. We haven't had a chance to speak about that until yesterday. So if any of you are thinking that you have to give a lengthy report tonight, don't worry. We'll have that sorted out by our next meeting. And so committee reports, facilities and finance. Douglas?
Yes, thank you, Kathleen. So we had the financial review, which included the master plan for the central parking lot. I think everybody on the board was a part of that discussion, so I think that's a very healthy discussion on next steps and some research, I guess, discovery mode. So thank you, Abe, for starting that process, and for the other board members for chiming in. We also talked about some pretty exciting things with Grab and Go, and the NutriSlice app and the carts. So I think that's pretty exciting for next year as well. Lots of great research by the admin team, and so kudos to that. And I think the other one was the treasurer's bond renewal, and I think that was pretty much it.
Thank you so much.
My report.
Okay, thank you so much, Douglas. Program policy and personnel, Ms. Westville. Erin?
All right, so for program, we talked a big discussion about field trips and some of the bigger field trips, the out-of-state, out-of-country ones, and, you know, obviously lessons learned from the last year, and, you know, how are we going to kind of tackle this moving forward. So that was a really good discussion. Policy, we're going back and doing our 5-year review. This week was a bunch of board ones that are pretty much defined by state statutes, so they're in your packet if you want to look at them. And then finally, personnel. Danielle has been very busy. And so you saw that in your board packet, and it's just, you know, the time of year. So it's just going to be a little crazy for the next month.
All righty. Thank you so much, Erin. Illinois Association of School Boards, Dean. I'm not quite sure if you've been given any direction on this yet, but we can get you up to date if you haven't. I can't hear you. You're on mute.
Lost my cursor. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Yeah, so just two things that came up in the notes that were presented by the ISBs. They're actually bringing back the $350 million that they were going to cut away from the evidence-based funding model. They found the money. They're going to put it in. That's huge. And then there's a potential disruptor that they brought into a bill came out of the Senate committee where any teacher who thought their teaching conditions were in the classroom were abnormally dangerous would be allowed to walk out. No consequences, no setup for it. It would be during class, and we would have to deal with having some kind of sub standing by in case this happens. So it's an interesting proposal. That's it.
Well, thank you. Yes, it is an interesting proposal. Thank you. CEDAW, Jay.
Yeah, we have a meeting on June 2nd. It's in person, and so I will let you all know in June how it goes.
Okay, fantastic. And then EdRed, and I know a lot of us attended the EdRed meeting, and I don't know where people want to jump in, but I do want to give an update on our parity in funding between public and private therapeutic day centers. That is an idea that EdRed has decided that they want to move forward, as does the Illinois Association of School Board. And even though it's disappointing news, guys, and that I'm bringing this evening. I have been told several times that very high-ranking people within the legislature were going to move this idea forward. And the language did not end up making it onto a bill or to a shell bill. So that was, it was disappointing. However, I did speak with Bridget Everson from EdRed, and she said we'll come back to it over the summer. We'll think about it again and come up with a plan for next year. So that wasn't great news. And there were lots of other good things. And if Tracy or Abe would like to jump in and have a moment, they can.
Sure. They stressed kind of a record-setting year with the number of proposed bills around education at the state this year. So they covered some of the ones getting most action. Mark can certainly jump in on this too. One that will likely pass in some ways, extending the age of our special education students so that, and Mark, please jump in if I misspeak in any way, but they can complete the school year through their 22nd birthday.
Yeah, the one that is up there, House Bill 0040, and then there's a sister bill. I can't remember the number on that one because 0040 is the one that's really kind of really moving through the system. It's already been through the House, and it is in the Senate now. They voted yesterday to, what is it, a due pass out of the Education Committee. So I believe it goes next week to the pass, or what is it, the third reading on the 18th. And then after the third reading, if it passes that, then it goes to the governor. So the significance of this one, as opposed to one of the other ones that was out there, is that this one is a permanent type bill that makes it so any student will have the opportunity to attend the transition services or get special services until that school year that they turn, or through the school year they turn 22. So if a student turns 22 in October, they can finish off the year all the way to June. It's got pros and cons in there. There were other bills that were a part of the, that would just make it for COVID at that point, but this one carries on, you know, way beyond.
Right, which of course brings cost to the school district providing those services. Some significant cost potential.
Significant and unfunded at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. The Mandate Review Committee is looking at having some sort of a bill passed on reviewing the costs of mandates to school districts, but correct me, Tracy and Abe, I don't think that is going anywhere this year.
No.
I think, yeah, it's not going anywhere. It's a nice, like, it would have been great, but no. But anyway, I'm going to jump out. You guys continue. Tracy and Abe.
Yeah, there was, they mentioned some things about changing how minibuses for schools might be used, lifting perhaps some of the restrictions that are on them now in terms of how they can be used. And then there was some, the one that Dean mentioned about teachers being able to walk out. They didn't seem to think that was going to go anywhere. At least that was the impression of EdRed representatives, but they did mention it. And that was, those were the big ones that I recall from my side of the world.
Yeah. Just overall, a historic number of bills being introduced. It's going to be a crazy month. Towards the end of May, what gets put in, what gets taken out, the face of a bill can change very quickly. And we continue to monitor all that. Beyond fully funding EBF, everything else, we're just aware that it could be unfunded mandates. It could be reporting requirements that puts a burden on us to create reports and submission and more administrative work. Discipline data reporting is a bill that's out there. So we continue to monitor it, and that's all we have.
Okay, thank you very much. If there are no other questions, are there any other questions from board members on any of this? Okay, then we can move on to new business, item 13. So recommendation to approve the 2021-2022 Board of Education meeting dates. I move the Board of Education establish its Board of Education regular meeting dates for July 2021 through June 2022 as presented. Meetings will begin at the posted time and location unless notified. A legal notice will be placed in the newspaper. I need a second.
Second.
Thank you, Dean. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. Roll call vote, please, Jenny.
Ms. Westfall?
Yes.
Mr. Thorson?
Yes.
Mr. Sloan?
Yes.
Mr. Reynoso?
Yes.
Mr. Nergy?
Yes.
Mrs. Knutson-Strack?
Yes.
Mrs. Conlon-Wasik?
Yes, thank you. Motion carries. 13B, recommendation to approve the 2021-2022 Board of Education Committee meeting dates. I move the Board of Education establish its Board of Education Committee dates for July 2021 through June 2022 as presented. Meetings will begin at the posted time and location unless notified. A legal notice will be placed in the newspaper. I need a second.
Second.
Thank you, Jay. Is there any discussion? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Thorson,
Yes.
Mr. Sloan,
Yes.
Mr. Reynoso,
Yes.
Mr. Nergy,
Yes.
Mrs. Knutson-Strack,
Yes.
Mrs. Conlon-Wasik,
Yes.
Ms. Westfall.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. C, recommendation to approve the 2021-2022 textbooks and novels. Board actions requested. Erin.
I move the Board of Education approve the 2021-2022 textbooks and novels as discussed and recommended by the P-Cubes Committee. This approval is being completed after the 30-day review period. Roll
Thank
call
you.
vote.
I need a second.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on our textbooks and novels this year? Okay. Hearing none, roll call vote, please, Jenny.
Mr. Sloan,
Yes.
Mr. Reynoso,
Yes.
Mr. Nergy,
Yes.
Mrs. Knutson-Strack,
Yes.
Mrs. Conlon-Wasik,
Yes.
Ms. Westfall,
Yes.
Mr. Thorson.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you. D, recommendation to approve the 2021-2022 Consolidated District Plan. Board action is requested. Erin.
I move the Board of Education approve the 2021-2022 Consolidated District Plan. This will allow the district to apply for Title I and Title II grants as discussed and recommended by the P-Cubed Committee.
Thank you. I need a second.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please, Jenny.
Mr. Nergy,
Yes.
Mrs. Knutson-Strack,
Yes.
Mrs. Conlon-Wasik,
Yes.
Ms. Westfall,
Yes.
Mr. Thorson,
Yes.
Mr. Sloan,
Yes.
Mr. Reynoso.
I abstain.
Okay. Motion carries. E, recommendation to approve the Ombudsman and Educational Services contract. Board action is requested. Erin.
I move the Board of Education approve the renewal contract with Ombudsman Educational Services for 2021-2022 school year as discussed and recommended by the P-Cubed Committee.
Thank you. I need a second.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? No? Oh, okay. All right. Roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Knutson-Strack,
Yes.
Mrs. Conlon-Wasik,
Yes.
Ms. Westfall,
Yes.
Mr. Thorson,
Yes.
Mr. Sloan,
Yes.
Mr. Reynoso,
Yes.
Mr. Nergy.
Yes.
Motion carries. Board policy first reading. We don't have anything here. None at this time, so we'll move on. G, recommendation to approve treasurer's bond renewal. Board action is requested. Douglas.
Thank you. I move the Board of Education approve the treasurer's bond and extend the appointment of Mr. Abe Sinch as school treasurer effective through June 30th, 2022, as discussed and recommended by the F&F committee.
Thank you. I need a second.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Okay. Roll call vote, please, Jenny.
Mrs. Conlon-Wasik,
Yes.
Ms. Westfall,
Yes.
Mr. Thorson,
Yes.
Mr. Sloan,
Yes.
Mr. Reynoso,
Yes.
Mr. Nergy,
Yes.
Mrs. Knutson-Strack.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. H, recommendation to approve Nutri-Slice and Grab and Go service with Aramore Food Service. Douglas.
Excellent. I move the Board of Education to approve the contract with Armark Food Services to provide the Nutri-Slice and Grab and Go service as discussed and recommended by the F Square Committee.
Thank you. I need a second.
Second.
Okay. Jenny, did you get that?
Yep. Jay, that was you, correct? Okay. Yep, we're good.
Okay, great. Is there any discussion?
I just want to say that this is a very exciting addition to help the students, in general for healthy eating, and it's, moving into the 20th century, so 21st century. But thank you for all on the admin team that, put your time and effort for this.
Yes. I was thinking about this a little bit myself, and I was wondering, could this be part of our COVID plan, because it gets kids moving around the school and not all heading into the cafeteria at the same time? Would this be considered part of that for granting purposes? Is that, or is this?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all part of the bigger plan for sure to keep students and people from congregating too much and giving a little more flexibility. So yeah, I think you can look at it that way.
Okay. Guys, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to jump in. I was just kind of, does anyone else have some thoughts? Okay. Roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Knutson-Strack,
Yes.
Mr. Thorson,
Yes.
Ms. Westfall,
Yes.
Mrs. Conlon-Wasik,
Yes.
Mr. Reynoso,
Yes.
Mr. Nergy,
Yes.
Mr. Sloan.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Okay, we're going to move on to some board level discussions. Live streaming of Board of Education meeting discussion. This came up, I think, Jay, that you brought this up, and I do believe we have a board attorney here to help us with this discussion. John, there's John. There you are. Okay, so Jay, do you want to start, or Nickel, do you want to start, or John, do you want to start? Who wants to start?
Well, I mean, I can start if that's okay, Jay. I don't want to step on you or anything like that, but we've done some a little bit of research on this and what it would actually require. I mean, on its surface, I think it sounds like a great idea, and we're all used to Zoom, and Zoom is easy. You turn the switch, and here we are. It's a little bit different once the board is back in person, and if we were going to live stream that way. So took a little bit of a look of the equipment that would be required, and as I think all of us have probably felt in some way, shape, or form, sound is hard, right? It takes some really good equipment. It takes a good setup. You know, video, if you've seen, well, you know, imagine our entire board arrayed out there, and if we're still doing social distancing, that's going to be tricky too. Not that it can't be done, but just to kick off some of the discussion, our estimate for the initial capital investment, just to start, is upwards around $47,000 to get the right equipment, and that would be for us to do it right and do it well, which is how we would want to do it. And we're estimating an annual operational cost for live captioning, translation, ASL interpreter, the tech staff, because there's, you know, annual operating cost. You know, there's maintenance to be done and annual operating cost increases. It's about $40,000, our estimate, per year on top of that initial cost. So that's something to be considered, not to say we can't do it, but it's fairly significant. Taking a look at our participation data, we put things on YouTube because it's very convenient with Zoom, for sure. We're not exactly going viral. You know, some of our bigger meetings, you know, like the meeting in July, the special meeting where we announced remote, that obviously had some pretty significant community interest, about 200 views. And that's pretty much the top. Everything else, you know, we have a few at 60, 70 views. But again, we don't really know how much engagement that really is, or if it's click the button on YouTube, oop, wrong thing, and stop. You know, that could be a view. For the most part, as I'm sure most of you have noticed, we don't have too much public participation, although we try to make it as you know, inviting as possible. But so I'll kind of stop there. But John has, I think, some thoughts, unless the board has some questions before John. But John definitely has some thoughts on what he's seen, what his experience has been in other districts, and you know, some of the it can get tricky. So unless the board has any questions for me, I will hand it off to John.
Nickel, just a couple. I mean, the quote you gave is effectively for broadcast level equipment, including a video mixing board and a new audio mixing panel, boundary layer mics, and all that stuff. I'm just assuming that based upon the number you quoted. It can be done simpler than that. It just depends upon what we deem to be an acceptable level of quality. Are we certain the ongoing is the ongoing cost mainly for staff, $40,000 a year, or is it for
the live captioning, translation, the different services we would have to? I mean, we could take a look at that. It is, I guess the point is, it's not free. Like, and Zoom isn't free either, of course.
Yeah.
But it would be a bigger production. Excuse me, literally a bigger production, and just more to think about for sure. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's all.
I think we've probably all seen board meetings where it's, there's a camera in the middle and it doesn't look great, it doesn't sound great, and in my opinion, there's not a whole lot of point to doing it if you can't understand what's going on, right? You can't hear the board members. So obviously that's something we would not really be interested in doing. We'd want to see the production value a little bit higher.
Okay, thank you.
So I have a question. So this was just for the board meetings and not for the committee meetings, correct?
It would be for both.
Both, okay.
Yeah.
And are there other meetings across the district that wish we could kind of like amortize the costs? So, instead of just these 3 meetings a month, maybe some other meetings. I know that we incur additional people, but we get a little bit of, bang for the buck if we're using it when appropriate.
That's a good question. I'm not sure. I'd have to think about that. I'm not sure what meetings we would want, internal meetings we would want to live stream,
fair enough.
Broadcast out there. Or could it be used for other classes, purposes, things like that? I want to look at it a little bit closer, but my guess is the equipment is specific enough, kind of more or less one use equipment. So to use it for,
and
for classes
was
and things
buying,
like that.
got it. And was buying the only option as far as renting it or,
or leasing or something like
that? Leasing it or sharing it with other districts. So I don't know when they have their meetings or whatever, but.
Yeah, we could take a look for sure. This is sort of first, hacking away at it, kind of a first number that we got.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Sure.
Anyone else have any questions for Mikkel?
Amy does.
Oh, Amy, I saw your hand up. Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah. One thing I may suggest, even if we don't go on to live streaming, is having microphones, because people who are hard of hearing, even in an audience situation, should be able to hear us. So if you go and speak up on stage, sometimes people will be handed a microphone. They go, no, I don't need it. I can project. But that puts people who are in the audience at a disadvantage if they are hard of hearing. And we have not had microphones. And that is something that I think that we should at least consider, that we have a panel of microphones that we have available. D46 used to pass one around. Whoever was speaking had a microphone. Now they all have stationary microphones in front of them, and they click them on and off whoever is speaking. It is something to consider, and then they pass a microphone to whoever's speaking for public comment. And then that is also how they're heard well when they're on streaming. They've been doing it for years, but they also have staff that is part of their role as a staff member. So, but I would be interested in ensuring that when people do come to a meeting, they can hear us well, and we can hear them well.
And it's nowhere near $47,000 to come up with even a very good quality Shure microphone and a mixer board just to get it out. So
that's correct.
So that's like $150 each, counting cabling and absorbing the cost into a mixer board, having done that work before. So I agree with Amy. We should at least come up with fixed microphones that can be just in place and a couple of wireless ones to hand around.
Okay, thank you. Board members who haven't had an opportunity to speak yet. Erin?
Yeah, I think I just repeat what everybody else has said is, I think if it's going to cost that much, is that something that does have opportunities to be used elsewhere or ways to work with other districts? It's a lot of money. But I agree with the microphones. I've seen a lot of people say, oh, no, I can project. And then I'm standing there going, here's the microphone. Here's the microphone. So, yeah, Amy's nodding. But, yeah, nothing that hasn't been already said.
Thank you so much, Erin. Hal, you haven't weighed in yet.
Yeah, the cost for the annual cost for doing this with a maximum of 200 viewers, that just doesn't seem like a good use of our money. if the community starts attending the meetings and, people are saying if we can't come to your meetings, okay, then you start having some other discussions. But $40,000 a year for operating costs for maximum of 200, with 60 being a high end and who knows how many at the lower end. So, right, as presented, I'm not really inclined. But the microphone idea, I think, is very valid and worthwhile.
Thank you, Hal. Jay, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I just wanted to reframe the conversation. To Mikkel's point, we're having an initial conversation.
Yeah.
Whether it's 40,000 or 150 or whatever, right? That's down the road. I view this as an investment in the community. When we had our ISB workshop a few months ago, one of the bigger areas that we discussed was community engagement. While someone might say it's a two-way street, well, they have to come to us, but we also have to be willing to invest in going to them, right? That was my impetus for bringing this to the board initially, is that what can we do post-COVID to get more people engaged in our meetings and more people engaged in just the work that we're doing, right? We can have a full analysis of what we as the board, what we as the administration, as the district are doing to encourage our family, our parents, community members who attend our meetings, right? I think one step in that direction is to have some sort of way to provide these meetings to those that can attend, to those that might not feel comfortable or unable to attend in person whenever we transition to that point. And, something that Amy brought up, having a microphone is, just something we should have thought of such a long time ago, right? If we're thinking about being an equitable district, that starts with the work that we're doing here at the board, right? We have to think about those that might not be able to advocate for themselves because they might not know how to get to a board meeting, or they might not know this is where the change is actually supposed to be happening, right? So I appreciate this nebulous $40,000 figure, but again, we're just having a discussion about opening this up to the community. So I want that to be in everyone's minds, that we're not locking down on a certain figure, we're not locking down on a certain device, but it's a matter of why do we want to do this to begin with?
And if I could just, I'm sorry, Kathleen.
Excuse me. Thank you so much, Jay. At this point, do any board members want to add anything additional to Jay's comments, or anything additional to add?
I just want to say that I was very surprised that we weren't live streamed, because I remember attending D46 board meetings over a decade ago and they were being live streamed. So it is a little surprising that we don't do it. On the other hand, seeing that the YouTube people aren't viewing it, when that's like probably the most convenient way to do it, right? Everybody knows YouTube. They've got their app on the phone. It's kind of a hard thing. Yes, I agree, Jay, we have to reach out to the community, but at the same time, when I've reached out to the community, they're just not interested. It's a hard equilibrium to deal with.
Yeah. Thank you, Erin. Are there any additional comments before we move on to John? Or to Mikkel? We'll dovetail back to Mikkel.
No, I think
okay.
Thank you.
All right, Mikkel, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you. No, I think it's a good segue right to John.
Okay.
Well, good evening, everyone. I haven't had the pleasure to meet some of you in person yet, so I look forward to doing that safely one day. I love to see the guidance that came out today, so hopefully we can start being in person again a little bit more. So just to give you some broader perspective on this, we represent over 85 school districts in the suburban collar areas, from Kankakee up to your neck of the woods all the way up to the border. I'll give you some experiences that have happened, but I want to first just touch on what I heard the interest here is. And if I have the interest right, then I think we can have a good discussion on where it takes us. I think I heard the interest of just making the meetings more accessible to people that perhaps can't be there in person due to other commitments or travel restrictions or concerns about COVID, what have you. And there are ways to get there. One of them is obviously live streaming. So let's talk about that first. Some of my experience with video has been rather benign, but some of it has not. So I want to give you some of the things to think about when you do put live video out. There are some risks to it, and that's sort of the business I live in, is what could go wrong as opposed to what could go right. And so I want to give you some thoughts on having a camera there live stream. I have seen, if there are people who wish to sort of, for lack of a better word, perform for a broader audience, not necessarily for you, but for other people watching, a live stream video can encourage what I'll call behaviors amplified, as opposed to maybe if somebody just stood up to give a public comment for 3 minutes. If they know their public comment is being broadcast to a wider audience or to their own recording that they can use later, it sometimes tends to bring out TV personalities, and not in a great way. So that's one thing you have to consider when you start putting sort of the board meeting becomes a show with audience participation. There are people that will take advantage of that, and they're not always the people that are giving you the most thoughtful perspectives on things. I have also experienced this year with everybody, almost a year ago, going to Zoom meetings. Zoom bombing's a real thing, and you can, you'll have good security, you'll have good protections, the best that can be put there, but there are ways that people can get through. And I've had board meetings interrupted by really egregious racist and pornographic material. And while it only took 10 seconds to pull the plug on the meeting, it was 10 seconds too much that should have gone out there. So that's a thing you do have to consider, that as good as security is, nothing is infallible. I think we've all seen with just last month the Attorney General's office being hacked. I mean, there's places that would have security probably higher than most that can get infiltrated. So you have to remember that that is a possibility if you open it up to that forum. While somebody might come into a board meeting and say something offensive, it stays in that room at the board meeting. But if the board meeting is being live streamed, it's now out there. And most likely it's out there for good because somebody's recording the live stream. So those are just some things to think about. If you currently have to come to a meeting if you want to make your point to it. I understand that something like a call-in public comment like you had tonight, that just may exist forever, even after COVID, because it is a way to allow people to access the meeting because they can't be there. I have childcare responsibilities, I have work responsibilities, but I can make a phone call for 3 minutes. So I think those are things that you will want to think about going forward, is that, should we require people to come in person if they want to make a comment, or should we offer some alternative venues for commenting? And then I heard something else about audio, and you kind of took me to the end of my comments. Audio, in my experience, if you live streamed audio only, it doesn't seem to attract the attention or the disruptors the way video does. And I think it's just our society these days. We live in video, and people don't pay nearly as much attention to audio. While you could take a video clip, and I've had this done to several clients who have broadcast their meetings, people take the video clips and then they cut them and they edit them and they repurpose them, and then they post them on their own social media sites, and they say, look what happened at the board meeting last night. And while we'll get the chance to correct it, by the time we correct it, you know what happens. I mean, it doesn't take long for a rumor or a falsehood to spread these days in a matter of hours, if not minutes. So by the time we get around to saying, no, come to our website and look at the whole meeting, we have the actual video, there's a lot of damage to be undone. I haven't had that occur yet with just audio, where somebody's tried to just splice audio and say, oh, look what they said at the board meeting. It's something about video that just attracts people to different levels of what I'll just politely term misbehavior. So those are my thoughts on it. Obviously, people want to be open, boards want their communities to be engaged and to listen in and hear what's going on at the meetings. And I think it is respectful to think about ways to get people to engage when they can't actually be there in person for whatever reason. And I think if you're just, if that's the interest you're trying to meet, I think there's more than one way to get there. And maybe you can save some money, maybe you can save some costs in other ways. If you kept it to microphones, great idea. I see that at a lot of boards now that have individual microphones, just as Amy described with buttons, where if my button is red, my microphone's off. If my button is green, it's on. And it allows the meeting to be recorded in good audio, because then you can even post the audio to your website and say, hey, if you weren't able to be here, the audio of the open session meeting is on the website and it's been recorded in good sound, so you don't have to be like, well, I couldn't hear what was going on. So those are just my thoughts and experiences that I've had with clients who've been wondering, should we live stream? Should we do audio? Should we just record and post recordings to the website? So there's a whole different menu of ways you can get there if what you're looking to do is just increase community access to your meetings.
Okay, thank you very much, John. At this point, I would like to invite board members if they have any questions or thoughts. Dean.
Yeah, just one quick thing. So based on Mikkel's comments, John, this is to you. It seems like there's requirements for access for video where we would need to get ASL and captioning and stuff. What are the legal requirements that we have to meet if we do broadcast?
If you did video, yes, and let's say somebody in your community was blind or otherwise unable to view the video, yes, you would need captioning, or if I was hard of hearing, you could need transcripts even if somebody couldn't hear the meeting. But it really depends on what the request is that comes in. When we deal with accommodations for disabled people, we really have to individually assess what is the disability, what is the request, and then what is the accommodation that we can make to get them to be able to participate in the meeting or just hear or view the meeting in a way that accommodates them. So I think visually impaired mostly, I don't think that would be much of an accommodation. It would say we could give you the audio, you can hear it, you could listen. If you were deaf, then I think, yes, we would need, if we were doing video, we would need to have some sort of captioning. There's been lawsuits filed around the country against public entities that have broadcast things, even universities, for instance, that were broadcasting free online courses to people. They got sued because people who couldn't hear couldn't access the class. And what ended up happening was, unfortunately, a lot of universities just withdrew their programs altogether because the cost of having to have a legitimate live transcription going on of the course was cost prohibitive. So what we would do is handle each one. We would be required to handle each request on an individualized basis.
My assumption is that if you have, there would be no need for ASL if we caption though.
I'm sorry?
So also, we had mentioned ASL and captioning. Is that, does captioning remove the requirement for ASL translation?
If it was contemporaneous and proven to be accurate enough, the captioning that comes with software programs generally proves not to be quick enough or accurate enough to satisfy that need. So you would have to get a high enough level quality of closed captioning where it was virtually contemporaneous with the discussion. And again, school districts and other public entities have tried that through low cost or even free software, and it does not work, at least not to the satisfaction of the courts.
Thank you. I'll let somebody else talk.
Okay, just raise your hand and we can move on. Okay, I'm not seeing anyone wanting to continue.
I'll say one thing before we move on. Sorry, Kathleen. I would like to explore the possibility of audio only. I think our district goals dictate that we want to have more community outreach, and this is part of it. This, at least, I understand the video and the live streaming challenges, but I would like to explore further the audio only option. So that's all I have to say.
Okay, well, thank you, Douglas. Do any other people have thoughts on that? Amy?
Yeah, I would like to explore that, and if we don't do that, we could also look into further. There's other channels too, like even print, and like an e-news thing that goes out to people as well. I never discount print or electronic mediums, so there are ways to do it. So.
All righty. So let's see. Erin, do you have some thoughts?
Yeah, I think the audio is a great idea. I think people maybe won't sit and watch a 2-hour video or even a 2-hour live stream video, but they might turn on the meeting while they're folding laundry or cooking dinner or doing their normal evening activities, and we might actually get that. Also, I say this, that video streaming can be a hardship for those who don't have certain levels of internet accessibility, where audio is much easier. It's a little bit easier on your phones. It uses less data. So it would also probably serve a little bit better equity too.
Okay. Thank you, Erin. Hal, do you have any thoughts? No? Okay. Jay, we're going to dovetail back.
Yeah, I appreciate the audio option too, and I think as we're exploring this, within whatever plans are eventually presented, if we can have 1 or 2 different options, just so we have specific figures to match with these plans. I personally would like to advocate for video, and if we can just explore that option again with specifics, how much is this, what will it actually cost, what's the feasibility of it, right? And once we have those, we can explore, what do we do with the recordings? Do we delete them in the same way that we delete our closed session after a certain amount of time, right? Those are things that we as a board, and I'm sure with John as well and his guidance, we can have better guidance, for lack of a better word, on those specific questions.
Okay, thank you. The only thing that I would like to add is I'd like to know if we're going to spend money, if it's the best use of our money for reaching out to the community. What are the options that we have where we could reach out to our community in a way that they would want to be engaged with, that they have maybe more intuitive way of connecting with us. Maybe this is, as Hal said, this is not, people are not rushing, I don't know why, to our board meetings. But maybe there's other ways of spending money whereby we can reach people. Maybe it wouldn't be as much. Maybe, so I'm kind of thinking about, a broader discussion on what would be the best method for us with our funds. We have to remember that we are an underfunded school district, so money is extraordinarily important. And I'm thinking about this as maybe looking at this as a goal, a board goal to review this for next year. As we go through our board goals, to really dive into where would be the best place to spend our dollars. Now, I know people are interested in the audio, and I definitely think we should, look into that. But I think it's part of a broader discussion on where we need to be very intentional about what we're doing and with our dollars, because they are few. So that's my only thought on that. And would board members be interested in it being this discussion being part of our board goals for the next year? Jay would, Aaron would, Dean would.
I would, but I don't want to stop what the administration is doing.
Well, we're right on it almost. So this is a good time. We're running right into this puppy.
Right. No, I understand.
Okay, Amy, You're good? All right. So I think our superintendent has some direction from us. Thank you. And John, thank you so much for entering our Zoom room and making me think about things I hadn't thought about before. I'm sorry, it's your world, but it sounds pretty scary to me. But so with that, are we good to move on this evening, everyone? I think I see, yeah, everybody's ready to move on. Okay, so we'll do that. Okay, let me see.
Well, thank you for your time, everybody. It was good to see you all. Hope to see you in person sooner than later.
Okay, thank you, John. Good night.
Take care.
Always
Good night.
lovely to see you.
Good to see you too.
Okay, so a triple I conference discussion. Oh my. So Jenny, who is always on it and trying to keep us organized, it's like herding cats, has asked us to take out our crystal ball and to think about what we want to do in November. So Jenny, do you want to take it away?
I'm sure you guys have seen, ISB will be hosting the Triple I, or they're planning on hosting the Triple I November 19th through the 21st in Chicago, as it normally is. And as usual, registration for hotel and the conference itself comes very early, June 7th this year. And as years pass, we try to talk to the board and the administration to see who would like to go, who needs to stay. But with COVID, I know we're kind of seems maybe at the tail end. I just thought it would be a good time to have a discussion here in the May meeting, because we will not have another meeting before I should have to register all of you and reserve hotel rooms, to just have this discussion. I think it is good with the CDC and the City of Chicago announcing that they're going to be opening to larger capacities very soon. But one thing I do want to point out at this time, as in past, once I register us, the $200 deposit is non-refundable. I did confirm that with ISB. They did say, as in what happened in this past year, they would make a recommendation to give all the deposits back, but they can't guarantee that they would refund in case of another COVID outbreak or something else. So I just thought it would be a good time to have a discussion, and you guys let us know what you want me to do.
Okay, so board members would put up their emoji hands and I can call on you one at a time, or unmute so I can, does anyone have any thoughts on this? It's kind of a tough one. Okay, Jay.
Start off? Is that okay?
I'm sorry, Jay put his hand up.
Fine.
Jay, sorry.
Sorry. I remember when it was canceled last year and kind of the discussion we had then. I would say we're in a much better place as a district and as a community really at large to explore in-person events like this. I personally would be in favor of doing it. It seems like we're moving in a really good direction with the CDC and with more and more people being vaccinated and it being opened up to more and more people. So those are my initial thoughts.
Thank you so much, Jay. Douglas, you were next.
So I think I've gone to the conference maybe 10 or 11 years. And I've thought a lot about this over the years, if it's a good way to spend taxpayers' money. Every year, there's several ideas that come from the board members. Sometimes we kind of double up. I think it would be a good idea, but I would like to entertain the option that only maybe a couple of us go as representatives of the district and be very strategic about the things that we go to. The cost is, I think, pretty significant with the hotel rooms and the cost of the conference. And I think that as we're talking about reaching out to the community, if we're looking at, maybe saving a little bit of money, I know, rob Peter, pay Paul, but I think it's maybe a good idea to maybe send a representative sample of our district. And we can kill, two birds with one stone, if that term is still acceptable. So I might like to entertain that.
Thank you, Douglas. Amy, you had some thoughts.
Yeah, I think conferences like this are very valuable. They have been for me when I go. But I will say I commute. I don't get a hotel room. That's been my choice. I do believe that if someone has a very early start, or if they're presenting, then getting a hotel room is fine. But I also know that we have people in our district who commute to Chicago every day for work, and I feel like I can do the same for a conference. So that's always been my belief, and so I've never gotten a hotel room. So I'm comfortable just commuting in and attending the conference that way. So that's been my choice of handling that. So I actually liked last year being able to also do it remotely, because then I could pop in, see the events that I liked, and then pop out, and then that was easy for my day. So if they're offering any remote options, then I also might just do that. So I'm interested to find out what they're going to be doing, and I apologize, I haven't seen announcements. I'm sure it was there and I just missed it this week. It's been busy. So
Okay, thank you so much, Amy. Erin?
Yes. Yeah, I like Douglas's idea, especially with the uncertainty we have in the fall. I've been going to conferences my entire adult life, and it always seems, and this is not IASB, I've only gone to one, but other organizations, that I end up in a lot of rooms of different sorts of things I'm not really interested in, but none of the options I'm interested in. So it makes sense maybe to, have a couple of designees, and, once the program gets out, kind of pinpoint some of the programs that we really want people to be attending is a better option. Hopefully hopefully they will be doing some remote type options too, especially with the uncertainty. So maybe that's a way. But, and like Amy, one of my rules about Chicago is if I'm going to a convention in Chicago, and this is a 15-year-old rule, I do not get a hotel room either. And it's just, if I drive there normally, I've gone down all the way to like Downers Grove for conventions. So that's my thoughts.
Okay, I think I've gotten everyone. I can dovetail back and see if people want to add anything else now that they've heard what board members have said. Douglasism's good, Jay's good, Amy's good. Okay, so what I'm hearing is that we'd like to know if they're going to be able to have a remote option, right? And I don't know how quickly you can get that information to the board members. And then if board members think that they would be willing to go, if you could let Jenny know if you're interested in going, physically going down. And I think it depends on the board member if they want to, if you want to stay overnight or if you want to take the train down, that is your prerogative, unless the board makes, decision that that's something we don't want to do anymore. That's still available. And so I'll leave it at that. I think we need to maybe get this addressed within the next week or so. So maybe we'll get some emails flying back and forth. Jenny, do you have any thoughts?
Actually, I will get on the phone tomorrow morning with our ISB rep and get the answers to this, and I will include some of this information in the weekly update for all of you.
Okay.
Is that okay with everybody?
Can you include to us what the cost of registration will be?
Yes, I don't know if they have that online yet. I'm looking on their website and I don't see anything as of yet. It says coming soon.
Yeah.
Okay.
It may be because they may be doing different tiers or different options and they just don't have it nailed down. I know that wasn't it last year was free, wasn't it? Or it was a lower cost because of it being remote.
I don't remember, but Jenny, maybe you could look into that for us and let us know and get us an update on that.
Yes, I will. I'll include it tomorrow. Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Great. Are there any other questions before we move on? Okay, so there's a lot of questions to be asked and answered, and we'll get to it, and we'll try to get something nailed down in the next week or so. All right. Okay, so we're going to move on. All right, so a couple of Board of Education in-person meeting room layout discussion. So basically where we're at with this is that we did say one of our earlier meetings that we'd go back in July. I have heard some board members talking about maybe, oh, could we go back earlier, which would mean June at this point. And so Jenny and Mikkel have been out scouting around spaces for us and trying to come up with a layout that we would be comfortable with. And so we have two things to do this evening. Number one, we're going to take a look at the layouts to see if we're comfortable, what we're comfortable with, weigh in on that, and then decide if we want to come back in July for the Board of Education meeting, sorry, in June or July, just leave July like we said. And the other question is, do we want to come back in person for committee meetings? So that's a separate thing. Do we want to continue with those being remote, or do we want to do those in person too? So we have three things to think about. Any thoughts? I don't see any hands. I know I'm going to see one soon. Okay, I think that was Amy. All right, Amy, where you go?
You know what? I can't stop not raising my hand tonight.
It's good. Thank you. It's helpful to me. I so appreciate it.
So my only question is, right now we are under the emergency order of the governor to be able to have our meetings in this style or in this way because of OMA, right? The open meetings. I mean, we're able to do this under an emergency order. So making decisions about if we're able to separate it out, committee versus whatever, we may not be able to make that decision. The decision may be made for us.
So it's either all in or all out, are you saying?
Well,
we either come back for both the committees and the Board of Education meeting, or we don't for either one. We
can have this discussion, but under the knowledge that the state may remove the order that we are under, allowing us to meet this way.
Yes.
And, yeah.
Absolutely.
And maybe they'll extend it and still allow us to do these things, and that would be fine.
We believe that order is over on June 1st.
Oh, it is over on June 1st, so we will be coming back then.
At this moment. Again, as Amy said, it could be changed. But
it could be changed. Okay. But we still can plan to come back in person for the Board of Education meeting in June. Then we would have to come back in June, right? Yes.
Right. Having this conversation is fine. I just wanted to make that comment.
Okay, no, thank you. So depending on what happens, we will have to be back in June. So we probably should consider moving along and taking a look at the layouts, right?
Sure. I mean, we have a couple of layouts to show you. Scoped out some building, or some rooms rather.
Okay.
Not all rooms are created equal, so to speak, for this purpose. So basically what we came down to is a room at North and a room at Central. The room in Central is 1,500, and that should be a familiar one to you. So I'm going to share my screen real quick. Again, assuming we're still at 6-foot social distancing and masking, but I think the space here is probably the most important thing. Hard to get pictures of this. It's really spread out. But here's 1,500, kind of what it might look like. So that's a pretty good shot right there. For all the board members and myself and some of the administration. So that would work. Again, if we have a large group that wants to come and talk to the board, that the space would be limited. But I think when we've had bigger crowds, it's because we've known it. We're honoring students or something like that. We could shift to, say, the arena again if we needed more space. So that being said, the other room at North, if the board was interested in doing board meetings at North, either permanently or want to alternate first semester North, second semester Central, or something like that, would be the library, which is a large space. There's a few pictures how it might look, similar size tables, just kind of in a different area. The library at North is much, much bigger. And that doesn't give you a sense of, it extends back quite a bit. So there would be more space in theory for bigger crowds if we had some community participation that we'd be able to accommodate that. So for the most part, those are the two rooms we think would be the best. Again, 6-foot social distancing rules kind of in play here.
Okay. Dean, you had some thoughts?
Well, just a question. How many? I mean, we have 16 participants here in the Zoom call. Was this layout done for 16, or or something less?
Not quite. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt somebody. What we had traditionally, pre-COVID times, when we had our previous setup, it was the board, it was the superintendent, and the 2 associate superintendents. Directors would be in the audience. This was set up for that previous layout. Board, superintendent, associate superintendents, and then directors, principals would be kind of out in the crowd, so to speak. Otherwise, this layout gets huge. We're yelling at each other across the table. So.
Yeah, it's understandable. I just couldn't do a count of the chair numbers.
It's hard to get a good shot of them all. Yeah.
Jay?
I mean, I like the idea of alternating between both of our campuses. There are only limited number of times that we're actually in each of the buildings. So, whether we do it semester at North, semester at Central, or every month, I think that in itself is a really good idea to entertain.
Thank you, Jay. Douglas?
I'm good with either one. I know from a past experience with Janice that I think it was a lot of work to remove a lot of stuff in the library, although it is a bigger space. Probably goes the same for the arena. If we had to go to that space, it's just a lot of work to do that. Selfishly, it takes a long time to go up Route 83 sometimes, during traffic, but that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Thank you, Douglas. Dean?
Just one thing, that if we actually do this and alternate between it on a month-by-month basis, it may not be realistic, especially if we're doing audio setup. So if you're hauling around a mixer board, 12 microphones plus like 4 or 5 wireless mics, in addition to speaker setups and all that does take some time to set up. I mean, it obviously in this space we would. I guess it's not as big a deal, I guess, in thinking about it, because we're not going to leave it set up. We'd set it up for the board meeting and then tear it back down. But there's other things besides just chair stuff.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, Erin, I think you were next.
Yeah, I think I mean, obviously this summer again, and especially if we're on the right direction, but if we have any setbacks, and we are forced, the OMA requires us to meet in person because the executive order is lifted. I think that I'm glad that we have North as a possibility if we have a larger than expected crowd or something wanting to participate in public comment, that we have the ability to go into a bigger room while we're still under COVID restrictions.
Thank you, Erin. Hal, I think you were next.
Yeah, I like the idea of the flexibility of a room at either building, but if things change, this administration has shown the very able capability of changing on the fly and making it happen the way that needs to be done to follow the rules that are being set. So, go forward with the best intentions of however we decide, but know that if we have to change, as you guys have shown over the last 15 months, you can change. So.
Thank you, Hal. Amy, I think you were up next. Amy, I can't hear you. You're muted.
I am muted. I like the idea that we're being presented with choices. I'm comfortable going back to Central in the 1500 room. And I like the idea that we have North as a possibility, maybe for if we had people coming together for a forum or something. I do know from experience from going for many years going with D46, they used to rotate schools for board meetings, so that there was kind of the idea of equity of being able to attend a meeting in your local school. And they don't do that anymore. It became confusing, and it was hard to keep track. So I'm just from experience, there was an idea of flipping, and it was very, I think, with good intentions, but they stick with one location now, unless they need to move it. Unless there is a need, then they do that. So I'm just voicing that because I have familiarity with it, having attended many myself. So.
Thank you, Amy. Does anyone have anything else they'd like to add? Additional information? Okay, I'm not seeing anything. So what I'm hearing, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, is that we're looking initially at heading back to Central, and we're looking at the arena, and I think we're looking at June, based on if the order gets lifted, we'll be back in June. Does that sound right, Mikkel?
I think it was 1,500 we were looking at.
Oh, sorry,
not the arena.
Sorry,
Yeah, but,
1,500. Okay, that's fine.
Otherwise,
is that okay?
Dead on. Yep.
So we'll wait to hear whether we're going to be meeting, and if the order's lifted, we'll be meeting in June for our committees and our board meeting. If not, July, like we had planned. Is that okay? Okay, Jay's good. Amy's good.
Actually, Kathleen, I just want to clarify.
Sorry.
We, as a board, you can decide, even if the emergency declaration is extended, you know, he's been extending. I usually get a notice, usually the last week of each month, but it is up to the board if you guys want to return in person. Some boards have already returned in person. It's just a guideline for you to have the flexibility under the OMA laws. If the board doesn't feel comfortable coming back in person, it gives you the flexibility to choose in-person or Zoom meetings every time he extends the emergency declaration.
I see. So would board members want to come back in June then? Would you like to come back in June in person? Amy, your hand's still up. Does that mean you want to come back in June?
I didn't intend to keep it up, but I will just say I will go with, I'm comfortable doing whatever people want. I know that there's been, I think we had decided to come back in July, and I'm still fine doing that. I think that was in people's, I don't want to shift things on people if they already had it in their minds that they were preparing themselves to come back in July.
Yes.
And I don't want to take that rug underneath people if that's what they were preparing themselves for. I don't want to suddenly say, no, it's going to be June.
Okay.
If the governor says June, that's one thing. But if we're shifting it and people are mentally preparing themselves for July, I don't want to make that shift on them.
Thank you for that.
Do whatever.
Yes, thank you for that, Amy. I think Jay was supportive, and I think Hal was supportive. I'm supportive of that. Mentally, I'm thinking July as well. Dean supportive. Aaron? Douglas. I got Douglas. I don't have Aaron, but I think we have. Thank you. Okay, the board is in agreement. Thank you so much, guys. We'll be coming back.
You know what? Before you go away, I would be in favor of going back in June. You misinterpreted my.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Thank you for jumping in.
I know I can tell I'm in a minority, but
that's okay.
Yep, I want to make that clear.
Okay, no, thank you so much. I misinterpreted. Dean?
I'm with Hal, actually.
Sorry,
I missed the shift to July.
Oh, okay.
Me too.
Douglas, you want to go back in June?
Right.
Dean, June, Hal, June. Everybody else? Okay. It looks like the other four want to go, myself, Amy, Aaron, and Jay. So we have 4 to 3. So we'll be coming back in in July. That's what I think we've agreed to. Okay. All righty. Can we move on? All right. Thank you guys. All righty. Well, that was a wonderful discussion. it was a lot, but thank you. And thank you, Amy, for teasing all of those details out for us. That was great. Okay, so we're moving on to I. I'm going to have a drink of water, so hold on. Okay, so we have two things here, sustainable bidding and contract renewal discussion. These are they really should be two line items, but we're going to start with the contract renewal discussion. The reason why this is coming up is because we keep kind of going around in circles on this idea of contract renewal and having regular intervals for competitive bidding. And so the question before the board this evening is do we want to set up regular intervals for competitive bidding? Is that right, Hal? Is that what you were thinking when we discussed this or a while back? I know it's been a while.
What I was thinking is you don't go 15 years without having a contract rebid. So whether it's on a regular basis or just when it seems to be the right time, not going 15 years is really where I was more coming from.
Okay, great. Does anyone else want to weigh in?
I think there's some of the big contracts like transportation and food services that are a huge undertaking, and that time frame which we go out to bid, maybe it's not 15 years, but maybe it's a little bit longer than some of the smaller contracts. So yeah, the intervals will be different depending on the contract size.
Okay. Anyone else have anything they want to add? Okay, I'm not hearing anything. So what I'm thinking on this, Douglas, and you can correct me, and Nicole or everybody can correct me, you all do anyway, is that we push this back to the Finance Committee and Facilities Committee. You guys work it through a little bit and let us know what you decide, and then bring it back to the board for a final discussion. Does that seem fair, Douglas? Are you okay for that? And work with Abe on it and the administration.
Of course. I thought that part of this discussion, Kathleen, was sustainable.
Oh, well, we're going to get to that in a minute. That's a separate part of that.
Okay.
I mean, we're going to deal with this one thing. We have two things. Okay. Oh no, we're going to get to the first thing second. Yeah.
Okay. I will make sure we're not skipping over.
Okay. So are we good on the first? Are we? We're going to throw this intervals for competitive bidding back to F squared. You guys are going to figure it out and come back to us, and we're going to have hope maybe a final discussion on it or some more information. So that's Abe and Nicole. Is that okay? We're good. All right. All right. Okay. So now we're going to talk about the first item, sustainable. Okay. So what happened here was that over the, this has kind of been something that's been bubbling up. We have our solar panels. We kind of got a name for ourselves doing that work. I know, Douglas, I know you're very modest, but you've been doing work with the lighting at the school. We've saved some money there, and we're very proud of saving money. And it seems this whole sustainability thing comes with some savings, and it also comes with, having, thinking differently, a little bit differently, thinking about the balance between the environment, equity, and the economy. And I'm wondering if you guys are interested in having more of a discussion on this and thinking about it a little bit more intentionally, maybe a little bit more strategically. And that's all I'm going to say. I just want to throw it out there. Any thoughts?
I mean, I'll quickly say I'm in favor of doing anything that's better for the environment, better for our students, and better for the longevity of our district and our financial health.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have to agree. I mean, there are different opportunities that keep coming, and I think sometimes it takes an extra view. It takes it's the long view, right? And I think it's worthwhile to do. And sometimes it does take extra funds up front, but then we have cost savings down the road. And those are things that we need to absolutely consider for our district and for our community. So, and for just for our children forward going. So.
Thank you, Amy. Let me see, I'm just going to go, oh, Douglas, you have your hand up. Yeah.
I was raising my hand. I was being patient.
Being unusually good. I mean.
No, I'm not. So without having to do like a 3-year study, I just think that we can talk about this at our board retreat. But my personal feeling is that we should put sustainability in every decision that we make for the district, not only financial, but every decision that we make. And I'd like to have this, I mean, that's kind of the high level, which I deeply feel. And if we could wrap this into our board retreat, I think it would be very good. So.
Okay, Douglas, thank you. And I think that kind of that taking that larger view is definitely interesting. Okay, let me see. Hal, did you have any thoughts on this one?
You know what, I think what Douglas said is right on. It's, you know, this sustainability and the environmental impact of what we do should be considered in every decision. So yeah, good point, Douglas.
Okay, thank you, Hal. Dean or Aaron, you guys have not had a chance to speak yet. Okay, Dean?
I was just going to say I agree with what Douglas said too. I mean, we need to take the long view, and part of the long view is sustainability. So.
Okay, thank you. Short and sweet. Aaron?
Yeah, I think sustainability is here for the future. And I mean, there's so many little things like, you know, the option of potentially having remote classes and where's the future of that going to go and a lot of those things. So I agree that taking that top view, it also sets our district apart from such a competitive area where people go, well, why am I paying more property taxes for 127 when I can go to Warren or I can go to 128? And it's like, well, we do this and this and this and this and this. So I think that's something that sustainability could really give us the potential.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, everyone. Would anyone like second go around, anything additional to add at this point now that you've heard what others have had to say? Nope, we're good. Well, you know what I'm hearing, and I know you'll all correct me, which you all do, is we're thinking strategic. We're thinking of a strategic positioning with this, and this would be goal setting, an extra goal. This would be something that we talk about at our goals, for our goals. Maybe this year we could set some small ones, or I think this is very long-term stuff, but I think we should start thinking about it from a goals perspective, and we're right on the cusp of that. Does anyone have any problem with that? Would that be okay? Some hands up. I got one hand up. 2, 3, 4. Okay. All right, Mikkel, the board would like to look at sustainability from a strategic perspective as part of our goals. We'll think about it with our goals this year. And I think we're really blessed in having Abe here at our school district. I've had some chats with Abe over the last few weeks about this issue, just trying to figure out, because when I started thinking about it, my mind almost blew up. It goes everywhere. You're right. It's everything we do. And so Abe has gone through this work before, and I think he'll be helpful. But so, all righty. So can we move on? Are we good for now? All righty. Okay. Thank you, guys. This is good. All right. Oh, and guess what's up next? Illinois Association of School Board Goals and Monitoring Workshop. All right, so back in the wintertime, we had our board retreat. We talked about one of the things that we wanted to do is get better at setting goals. Our goals seem to be setting themselves almost, but you know, so, right, which is good. And I'm sure Mecca will have a lot to tell us. But so what I did, and we also looked at monitoring workshop. So our idea of monitoring was to help us monitor our goals. So when I talked with Lori, I got in touch with Lori at the Illinois Association of School Boards. I asked her if she could send me an agenda for goal setting and monitoring. Well, it turns out the monitoring, they're thinking about monitoring very differently than we do. They're really thinking about it as monitoring district performance through policy. And I don't know if you looked at the agenda that Jenny sent it out yesterday. I don't follow you if you haven't seen it, but it really looks like stuff we're already doing. So if people want to work, take a look at having a monitoring workshop, it's really a review of policy and the importance of having a policy committee, which I think we're already doing. If you guys want to look at that, I think Tracy does not want to have anything to do with more policy stuff. Anyway, but no excitement. I mean, oh my goodness. Okay, all right. Well, okay, let's move on. Setting district goals and direction. Okay, so this looks like it would be useful for us. A lot of our goals seem to be kind of setting themselves up. I'm sure Mikkel has a lot of things he's thinking about. But they do have some openings. Laura has some openings July 6th, 8th, and 12th. And if we had a board meeting, I know we're having a meeting, 2 meetings coming up, a committee meeting, and then at the end of July we're having our board meeting, but we would have to have a special meeting, and it would be open to the public to invite people in as we have this goals workshop. So if you guys want to do that, Jenny can send out the dates, and we could lock down some dates. The problem is we have to do it pretty quickly. But I think the July dates would really work with July 6th, 8th, and 12th are open now, and it would work with our schedule. Does anyone have any thoughts on that? Do you want to do a goal setting workshop this year? No interest? No? Okay, I'm going to do a round robin and get a heads up or heads down on this one. I'm going to start with Amy. You're the first person I'm seeing. Would you like to do that this year?
Yeah, I'm happy to participate in a workshop. I have limited dates, but when it goes around, I will express which ones I'm available.
Okay, great. Dean, you're next.
Being the new guy here, it looks like we already do have a process in place for goals for the district, but it never hurts to actually refine it. So I guess I'm up for it.
Okay, we've never done this, and so that's why we're curious about it to see what we're not doing right. But that said, it could bomb. Douglas, are you good? What do you want to do?
What's the cost?
I think it's is it like, pardon?
They're free.
They're free. Oh my goodness, it's free.
Whenever you get something for free, is it worth?
Oh.
Yeah, I'm happy to go.
Okay,
through
Douglas, I'm going to come back to Douglas. Hal, what do you think?
Yeah. You know what? I'm good. Whatever we decide here.
All right, Erin.
Yeah, I mean, if it's free, that's kind of cool. I mean, if it doesn't have a cost to it, but yeah, I already am starting to book up my Tuesday nights for tutoring. I tutor all summer, so it might be a date issue.
Okay, Jay.
Yeah, I'm open to it.
Okay, I know there's not a lot of enthusiasm about this because you're thinking we're already really good at this, but let's just jump in. I don't think I don't know about you guys, but as long as we have like 3 or 4 numbers there, I'm good enough to go. Is that okay with you guys? I mean, I'm not going to hold everybody to it, and I know people need a break. So we'll go ahead. Jenny, if you could go ahead tomorrow and try to get a date, either the 6th, the 8th, or the 12th, lock that down, and then let Laura tell Laura we're interested, and we're going to have we'll have a board meeting and 3 board meetings in July to lock down our goals. But I think it'll be good. And then afterwards we'll know whether it was worth it or not. Okay. Thank you guys. That was easy. And then the next thing, legislative update. Okay, so last time we talked, there was a lot of interest on the board of maybe having a legislative, kind of thinking about this more. going forward. And quite frankly, I think I was been a little naive on this one. Mikkel and I did speak with Bridget Everson over at EdRed, and we wanted to get a lay of the land. Is this something that the board would work on a couple of times a year, maybe have a couple of conversations about, or would it be more than that? And it turns out, according to Bridget, it's actually an all year round kind of thing. And so we would need to assign someone to be thinking about this and bringing back their findings, and then we would kind of build, build towards having a legislative goals and deciding what we want to do with this moving forward. So it seemed to be a lot of work. It's not something that I can do with my existing responsibilities. And so if it's okay with everyone, I reached out to Amy. She's worked with the League of Women Voters. If anyone knows the League of Women Voters, they are the most disciplined crew you've ever imagined when it comes to legislation and meeting with legislators, even though we're a long ways off from that. So I've asked her to sit in on the EdRed meetings and to report back. I will not be doing that in the future. So Amy will be doing that and working with the administration on that. And again, the point that I want to make here is these are baby steps for us, and everything that we do, we will be working very closely with Mikkel and his team, the administrative team, to make sure that we're all in simpatico. Does that sound okay with you guys? Any thoughts on that? Okay, so all right, I got lots of nods. Okay, so I'll take that as we're moving forward. Thank you. We're done with that one. Item 14, topics for future committee are board meetings. Is anybody brave enough to come up with an additional topic? Dean is. Okay, Dean, let's hear it.
Normally on a yearly basis, or when a board is reconstituted, part of the reconstitution is recognizing law firms and other businesses that do business with the board. Question is, has the board done any review of the legal representation that's been provided to it for alternatives at all, or are we just using the firm we have because we have?
You know,
we did not too long ago. I'm sorry.
That's true. We do update this regularly, Dean. And what we can do is have Mikkel or Abe get back to you on that to give you an outline of how we go about that and how it's done throughout the year.
I have past history with this law firm, and it hasn't been good. So that's why I'm raising the question.
Oh, absolutely. And you are welcome to speak directly to Mikkel and Mikkel about that, and he will direct you from there. Does that sound fair?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Mikkel. Anything else? Okay, all right, guys, we're moving along. It's getting late. Item 15, we do have a need to go into closed session for matters pertaining to the superintendent goals and evaluation. And this will be under school code. So I move the board enter into second closed session as allowed under school code 5 ILCS 120 for the following reasons: superintendent goals and evaluation. I need a second.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Okay, roll call vote, please, Jenny, and then we will enter closed session. There will be no action coming out of this. And so if people want to take a much needed break, please do. Yeah. All righty. Roll call vote.
Mrs. Conlon-Wasek?
Yes.
Mrs. Knutson-Strack?
Yes.
Mr. Nergy?
Yes.
Mr. Reynoso?
Yes.
Mr. Sloan?
Yes.
Mr. Thorson?
Yes.
Ms. Westfall?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. We will now enter closed session. Mikkel, you're in charge of getting us in there. And for the people that are leaving, thank you, and good night to you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.